Hello and welcome back to Brendan Moyer's Playwright Corner, where I read plays, poems, or whatever's currently striking my fancy at the moment. Today we're in for a bit of a doozy, as this Strindberg play is rather lengthy. It's called The Dance of Death, and it's a drama in two parts. It was written in 1901 and usually only has the first part being performed as a full-length play, but as we are not obligated to time constraints on this medium, I'm going to go ahead and read all of it, so here's hoping I'll hang on through it, and here's hoping you'll hang on with me. The characters in Part 1 are Edgar, captain in the garrison artillery, Alice, his wife, formerly an actress, Kurt, a quarantine officer, Jenny, a maid, an old woman, and a sentry, who is non-speaking. The whole action takes place inside a fortress on an island off the coast of Sweden in the 90s. Scene: the living room in the round. Greystone fortress. Center back is the old main entrance to the fortress, a double stone archway inset with glass doors. Beyond is a beach with gun emplacements and the sea. In the walls on each side are smaller doors leading to other rooms. The one on the left also leads out of doors. On either side of the big doorway are windows, in one of which are pots of flowers, and in the other a cage of birds. On the right is a cottage piano. Below it a sewing table and two armchairs. On the left towards the center is a writing table equipped with telegraphic apparatus. Below this, family photographs are arranged on a whatnot. Nearby is a couch, and against the wall a sideboard and a round porcelain stove. Further left, beside the door, is a stand hung with accoutrements, swords, and so forth. A mercurial barometer hangs on the wall. Near this is a bureau. A lamp hangs from the ceiling. Over the piano is a portrait of a woman in theatrical costume between two large, bare-boned laurel wreaths. Part 1. Act 1, Scene 1. It is a warm autumn evening. The glass doors are open, and an artilleryman on sentry duty is seen down by the shore battery. He is wearing a busby with brush. Now and then his sword glitters in the red light of the setting sun. The sea is dark and still. The captain is sitting in the armchair on the left of the sewing table, fingering a cigar which has gone out. He is in undress uniform, the worst for wear, with riding boots and spurs. He looks tired and bored. Alice is sitting in the armchair on the right, doing nothing. She looks tired, but expectant. The captain. Won't you play something for me? Alice, indifferent but not crossly. What shall I play? What you like. You don't like my repertoire. Nor you mine. Alice, ambiguously. Do you want the doors left open? As you wish. Let's leave them then. Why aren't you smoking? I can't stand strong tobacco any longer. Alice, more kindly. Smoke something milder then. As you say, it's your only joy. Joy? Whatever's that? Don't ask me. I know no more of it than you. Won't you have your whiskey now? I'll wait a little. What's for supper? How should I know? Ask Kristen. Oughtn't mackerel to be in soon? It is autumn now. Yes, it is autumn. Outside and in. In spite of the cold that autumn brings outside and in, a broiled mackerel with a slice of lemon and a glass of white burgundy is not to be despised. How eloquent you've become. Have we any burgundy in the wine cellar? I'm unaware that we've had a wine cellar for the past 5 years. You never are aware. However, we must get in a supply for our silver wedding. Do you really mean to celebrate that? Naturally. It would be more natural to hide our misery. Our 25 years of misery. Misery there has been, my dear Alice. But pleasure too, now and then. and one must make use of the short time left, for then comes the end. Is it the end? If it only were. It is the end. Just enough left to wheel out on a barrow and put on a garden plot. All this fuss for a garden plot. Well, that's how it is. It's not my doing. All this fuss. Have you had the mail? Yes. Did the butcher's bill come? Yes. How much was it? The captain takes a paper from his pocket and puts on his glasses, but immediately takes them off again. Look for yourself, I can't make it out. What's wrong with your eyes? Old age? What nonsense. Me? Well, not me. Alice, looking at the bill. Can you pay it? Yes, but not at the moment. Later on, of course. In a year when you've retired on a small pension and it's too late. Later on when you get ill again and... Ill? I have never been ill. Just a little out of sorts once. I shall live for another 20 years. That's not what the doctor thought. Doctor? Well, who else could have a sound opinion about an illness? I haven't any illness, never have had, and never shall have. I shall just drop down dead, like an old soldier. Talking of the doctor, you know he's having a party this evening. Well, what of it? We haven't been invited because we don't mix with the doctor's family. And we don't mix with them because we don't want to, because I despise them. They're scum. You say that about everyone. Everyone is scum. Except you. Yes. I've behaved decently whatever's come about. So, I am not scum. Do you want to play cards? Might as well. Alice takes a pack of cards from the drawer of the sewing table and begins to shuffle. Just think of them having the band at the doctor's. For a private party. That's because he sucks up to the colonel in town. Sucks up, see? If you can do that, Gerda and I were friends once. But she cheated me. They're all cheats. A whole pack of them. What's that card? What's trumps? Put your glasses on. They're no use. Well, spades are trumps. The captain, disappointed. Spades? Yes, that may be. In any case, we're written off by the new officers' wives. The captain, playing and taking the trick. What's that matter? We don't give any parties, so it won't be noticed. I can get on alone. I always have. So can I. But the children are growing up without any companions. They'll have to find those for themselves in town. That was my trick. Any trumps left? Yes, one. That was mine. 6 and 8, that makes me 15. 14. 6 and 8 makes me 14. I seem to have forgotten how to count. Your deal. You're tired. Captain, dealing. Not a bit. Alice, listening. One can hear the music even here. Do you think Kurt has been invited? He arrived in the morning, so I dare say he's had a time to unpack his dress suit, even if not to call on us. Quarantine officer. Will there be a quarantine here? Yes. After all, he is my cousin. My name was the same as his once. No great honor in that. Look here. You leave my family alone, and I'll leave yours. Now. Don't let's start that again. Is the quarantine officer a doctor? No, he's just a kind of clerk in the civil administration. Kurt has never got anywhere. He was a poor creature who cost me money. And to leave his wife and children like that was scandalous. Don't be so harsh, Edgar. Yes, that's what it was. And what's he been doing since? And in America, eh? I can't say I'm making for his company here. Although he was a nice lad and I used to enjoy arguing with him. Because he always gave in. Whether he gave in or not, he was at least somebody one could talk to. Here on the island, there isn't one person who understands what I say. It's a community of nitwits. It's odd, isn't it? That Kurt should show up just in time for our silver wedding, whether it's celebrated or not. Why is it odd? Oh, yes, of course, it was he who brought us together and got you married, so they say. Well, didn't he? Of course he did. It was all his idea. The merits of which I leave you to judge. A frivolous notion, for which we've had to pay, not he. Yes. Just think if I were still on the stage. All my friends are stars now. Yes. Now I'll have my grog. Goes to the cupboard and mixes a drink, which he takes standing. There ought to be a rail here to put one's foot on, and one could imagine oneself in Copenhagen at the American bar. We must have a rail made, just to remind us of Copenhagen. Those really were the best times we had. The captain, taking a long drink. Yes. Do you remember Nim's Navarina poem? No, but I remember the Tivoli concerts. You have such exclusive tastes. You ought to be glad to have a wife with taste. On occasions when you want to boast about her. I must be dancing at the doctor's. I can hear the bass tubas 3/4 time. Bum, 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 bum. I can hear the whole tune of the Alcazar waltz. Though the last time I waltzed wasn't yesterday. Could you do it still? Still? Yes. You're a bit past dancing, same as I am. I'm 10 years younger than you, and we're the same age. The lady always has to be 10 years younger. How dare you? You're an old man, and I'm in my prime. Oh, I know you can be perfectly charming. To others. When you choose. Shall we have the lamps lighted now? If you like. Then ring. The captain goes slowly to the writing table and rings a bell. Enter Jenny, right. The captain. Will you please light the lamp, Jenny? Alice, sharply. Light the hanging lamp. Jenny, impudently. Yes, m'lady. Jenny lights the lamp while the captain watches her. Alice, curtly. Have you cleaned the chimney properly? It will do. That's not a way to answer. The captain. Oh, no. Alice, to Jenny. Go away. I'll light the lamp myself. That's best. Jenny, going. I think so, too. Alice, rising. Go away. Jenny, turning. I wonder what you'd say if I did go, ma'am. Alice does not reply. Exit Jenny. The captain comes forward and lights the lamp. Do you think she will leave? Wouldn't surprise me. Then we'd be ditched. It's your fault. You spoil them. Rubbish. Look how polite they always are to me. Because you cringe to them. Just as you cringe to all your inferiors. Although you're a despot, at bottom you're a slave. Come. Yes, you cringe to your men and your non-commissioned officers. But you can't get on with your equals and superiors. Oof. Just like all tyrants. Do you think she'll leave? Yes. Unless you go and say something nice to her. Me? If I go, you'll say I'm flirting with the maid. To think. If she does leave, I'll have to do all the housework like last time. And ruin my hands. And what's worse, if Jenny goes, Kristen will go too. And we'll never get another servant on the island. The mate of the steamboat will scare away anyone who comes to apply for the place. And should he forget, then my bombardiers will do it. Yes. Your bombardiers who I have to feed in my kitchen because you don't dare show them the door. No. Or they go at the end of their service. And then we'd have to close down the gun shop. Oh, that would ruin us. Which is why the officers' corps intends to request His Majesty for a maintenance grant. Who for? The bombardiers. You're quite crazy. Yes. Let's have a little laughter. We may need it. I shall soon have forgotten how to laugh. The captain, lighting a cigar. One must never forget that. It's boring enough as it is. Certainly not amusing. Do you want to go on playing? No. It exhausts me. You know, considering he's my cousin, it does annoy me that the new quarantine officer should make his first visit here to people who are not our friends. Not worth a thought. Well, but did you see in the paper, in the list of arrivals, it said he was of independent means? Independent means. A rich relation. Certainly the first in this family. In our family, yes. There have been many in mine. If he has any money, he's sure to be stuck up. But I'll keep him in check. And he won't get a chance of seeing my cards. The telegraph apparatus begins to tap out a message. The captain rises. Who is it? The captain, not moving. Quiet a moment, please. Well, go and see. I can hear what they're saying. It's the children. He goes to the apparatus and taps out a reply. The apparatus taps for a while and he replies again. Well, wait a minute. Gives the ending signal. It was the children. They were at the guardhouse in town. Judith is off color again and staying away from school. Again? What else did they say? Money. Of course. Why should Judith be in such a hurry? If she took her exam next year, that would be time enough. Tell her so and see what effect it has. You ought to tell her. Haven't I done so times without number? You know very well children do as they please. In this household, at any rate. The captain yawns. Must you yawn in your wife's face? What do you suggest I do? Don't you realize we go through the same rigmarole every day? When you repeated your old dig just now, in this household at any rate, my cue was to retort, the household isn't just my affair. But as I've said this already 500 times, now I yawn instead. And my yawn can be taken to mean that I can't be bothered to answer. Or, you're perfectly right, my angel. Or, let's shut up. Isn't it nearly time for supper? Do you know that they have ordered supper from the Grand Hotel for the doctor's party? Really? Then they will be having woodcock. You know, woodcock is the best bird there is, but to roast it in pork fat is barbarous. Must we talk about food? About wine, then? I wonder what the barbarians are drinking with their woodcock. Shall I play for you? The captain, seating himself at the writing table. The last resource. If you keep off your funeral marches and dirges, which sound all too appropriate. I always find myself intoning, see how unhappy I am, meow, meow, or see what a dreadful husband I have, pum pum pum. Oh, if only he would die. Joyful rolls of drums, fanfares, and the Alcazar waltz, the champagne gallop. Apropos champagne. Surely there are 2 bottles left. Shall we get them up and pretend we have guests? No, we won't. They're mine. They were sent to me. You're always economical. And you're always stingy. Anyhow, to your wife. Then I don't know what to suggest. Shall I dance for you? No, thank you. Your dancing days are over. You ought to ask some woman here to stay with you. Thanks. You ought to ask some man to stay with you. Thanks. That was tried. To our mutual dissatisfaction. But what was interesting in the experiment was how happy we were as soon as we had a stranger in the house. And then? Oh, don't talk about it. There is a knock on the door left. Who can that be at this hour?
Jenny doesn't usually knock.
Go and open it, and don't call come in. That sounds like a workshop. The captain, going to the door.
You don't like workshops.
The knocking is repeated. Open it. Do. The captain opens it and takes the visiting card which is handed to him.
It's Kristen.
To the unseen Kristen.
Has Jenny gone?
Her reply is inaudible. To Alice.
Jenny is gone.
So I'm to be the maid again.
And I the man.
Can't we have one of the Garrisons to help in the kitchen?
Not these days.
But surely it wasn't Jenny who sent in that card. The captain puts on his glasses and looks at the card, then hands it to Alice.
You read it. I can't.
Alice, looking at the card. Kurt! It's Kurt! Go and bring him in! The captain, going out left.
Kurt! Well, that is nice.
Alice arranges her hair and seems to come to life. The captain and Kurt enter left.
Here he is, the blackguard. Welcome, old man.
Pats him on the back. Welcome to my home, Kurt. Kurt. Thank you. It's a long time since we saw one another. The captain.
What is it? 15 years? And we've grown old.
Oh, Kurt looks just as he was to me.
Sit down. Now, first of all, your program. Any engagement this evening?
Kurt. I've been invited to the doctor's, but I haven't promised to go. Then stay with your relatives. Kurt. That would be the natural thing to do, but on the other hand, the doctor is my chief, and there'd be unpleasantness later.
Nonsense. I've never been afraid of my chiefs.
Afraid or not, there'd be unpleasantness just the same.
Here on the island, I'm master. Stick behind me and no one will dare get at you.
Be quiet, Edgar. Takes Kurt's hand. Never mind about masters and chiefs. You stay here with us. It's only right and proper.
So be it.
Especially as I find myself welcome here.
The captain. Why shouldn't you be welcome? We haven't had any quarrel with you.
Kurt cannot hide a certain embarrassment.
Why should we have? You were a bit reckless, but you were young, and I've forgotten it. I don't bear grudges.
Alice looks vexed. All three sit at the sewing table. Alice. Well, have you been round the world? Kurt. Yes, and now I've landed up with you.
Whom you married off 25 years ago.
Hardly that. But let it go. It's nice to see that you've stuck together for 25 years.
Yes, we've rubbed along. Sometimes it's been a bit touch and go, but as you say, we've stuck it out.
And Alice has nothing to complain of.
Plenty of everything. Oodles of money.
Perhaps you don't know I'm a
famous writer. Writer of textbooks.
Yes, I remember when our ways parted, you had just brought out a shooting manual that was doing well. Is it still used in military schools?
It is still there and still number one. Although they've tried to throw it out for an inferior one. Which, of course, is used now.
Embarrassing silence. Kurt. You've been abroad, I hear. Yes, just imagine. We've been to Copenhagen 5 times.
Yes. You see, when I took Alice away from the theater, took me. Yes. I took you as a wife should be taken.
You're talking very big.
But afterwards, I was always having it thrown at me that I ruined her brilliant career. So I had to make amends by promising to take my wife to Copenhagen. And I've kept my promise faithfully. 5 times we've been there.
Holds up the fingers of his left hand.
5.
Have you been to Copenhagen? Kurt, smiling. No, I've been chiefly in America.
America? Pretty low place, what?
Kurt. It's not Copenhagen. Have you heard it all? From your children?
No.
Forgive me, dear, but it was rather heartless to leave them like that.
I didn't leave them.
The court gave their mother
We
custody.
won't talk about that now. Seems to me you were just lucky to get out of that mess.
Kurt to Alice.
Are your children well?
Yes, thank you. They're at school in the town. They'll be grown up soon.
Yes, they're bright youngsters. The boy has a brilliant mind, brilliant. He'll be on the general staff,
if they'll have him.
Have him? The makings of a minister of war.
Kurt, to change the subject, there's to be this quarantine station here, for plague, cholera, and so forth, and the doctor, as you know, will be my chief. What sort of man is he?
Man? He's not a man. He's a brainless scoundrel.
Kurt to Alice. How very unpleasant for me. It's not as bad as Edgar says, but I must admit he doesn't appeal to me.
The captain. He's a scoundrel. And so are the rest of them. The customs officer, the postmaster, the telephone girl, the chemist, the pilot, what do you call them? The alderman. Scoundrels. The whole pack of them.
Are you on bad terms with the whole lot?
The whole lot.
Yes, it's true. You can't have anything to do with those people.
It's as if all the tyrants in the country have been interned on this island.
Alice, ironically. How true.
Is that a dig at me? I'm no tyrant, not in my own house at any rate.
You be careful.
The captain to Kurt. You mustn't believe a word she says. I'm a very good husband, and my old woman's the best wife in the world.
Would you like a drink, Kurt? No thanks, not at the moment.
You haven't become
rather moderate, that's all.
American?
Yes.
I say be immoderate, or leave it alone.
A man should be able to hold his liquor. Kurt. To return to our neighbors on the island. My position will bring me into contact with everyone. And it won't be plain sailing because, however little one wants to, one's bound to become involved in other people's intrigues. Go on then. But you'll always come back to us, because your true friends are here.
Isn't it frightful to sit here alone surrounded by enemies?
It's not pleasant.
It's not frightful at all. All my life I've had enemies, and they've helped rather than harmed me. And when my time comes to die, I shall be able to say, I owe nobody anything, and I've never had anything as a gift. Everything I've got, I've had to fight for.
Yes, Edgar's path has not been strewn with roses.
With thorns and stones, flints. But there's your own strength.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I learnt the limits of mine 10 years ago. Then you're a milksop.
Edgar!
Well, he is a milksop, if he can't rely on his own strength. True, when the mechanism is done for, nothing's left but a barrel full to tip out on a garden plot. But as long as the mechanism's intact, the thing is to kick and fight for all you're worth with both hands and both feet. That's my philosophy.
Kurt.
You're amusing to listen to. But you don't believe it.
No, I don't believe it.
Well, anyhow, it's true.
During the above scene, the wind has risen, and now one of the glass doors slams. The captain, rising.
A gale's getting up. I felt it coming.
He shuts the doors and taps the barometer. Alice to Kurt. You'll stay to supper, won't you? Thank you. It'll be very simple. Our maid just left. I'm sure it will be fine. You're so easy to please, my dear Kurt. The captain, at the barometer.
You should see how the barometer's falling. I felt it in my bones.
Alice, aside to Kurt. He's all on edge.
It's time we had supper.
I'm just going to see to it. You two stay here and talk philosophy. To Kurt, aside. But don't contradict him, or he'll lose his temper. And don't ask him why he isn't a major. Kurt nods assent. Alice goes towards the door, right. The captain sits down at the sewing table with Kurt. The captain.
See, we have something good, old girl.
You would have if you gave me some money.
Always money.
Exit Alice. To Kurt.
Money, money, money. All day long I run around with a purse till I begin to think I am a purse. Do you know what I mean? Surely. With this difference, I thought I was a pocketbook. Ha! So you know the type. Those ladies. And you picked a proper one. Curt, evenly. All that can be forgotten now. Captain, ironically. A perfect jewel, that one. Whereas I, in spite of everything, at least got myself a good woman. For she is honest, in spite of everything. Curt, smiling amiably. In spite of everything. Don't laugh. In spite of everything. Yes, she's been a faithful wife. A good mother, exceptionally good, but... Glances at the door, right. She is a devil of a temper. There have been times, you know, when I've cursed you for saddling me with her. Curt, affably. But I never did. Listen, my dear... Damn it, man! You talk a lot of rubbish and forget anything that's unpleasant to remember. Don't get me wrong. You see, I'm used to commanding and blustering. But you know me and won't take offense. Of course not. But I didn't sally you with your wife. On the contrary, the captain, not allowing his flow to be interrupted. Don't you think life's an extraordinary business anyway? Surely is. As for growing old, it's not nice, but it's interesting. Of course, I'm not old, but age is beginning to make itself felt. Your acquaintances die off and you grow lonely. The man who has a wife to grow old with is fortunate. Fortunate? Yes, that is fortunate. For one's children leave one too. You should never have left yours. But I didn't. They were taken from me. No, you mustn't take offense when I say that. But it wasn't so. Well, how it happened has been forgotten. But you are alone. My dear fellow, one gets used to anything. Could one really get used to being entirely alone? Just look at me. What have you achieved in these 15 years? What a question. These 15 years. They say you've come into some money and are rich. I'm not rich. I wasn't thinking of borrowing. If I were, thank you so much, but I have my own debit and credit account. You see, glances at the door, right. In this household, there must be no shortage of anything. The day I hadn't any money, off she'd go. Oh no. Oh yes. I know it. Believe it or not, she's always on the lookout for the times when I do happen to be out of funds, just for the pleasure of proving to me that I don't support my family. But I thought you said you had a big income. Certainly I have a big income. But it isn't enough. Then it's not big in the ordinary sense. Life is extraordinary. And so are we. The telegraph begins tapping. Curt. What's that? Only the time signal. Haven't you got a telephone? Yes, in the kitchen. But we use the telegraph because the telephone girls repeat everything we say. Social life out here must be grim. Yes, it's perfectly abominable. The whole of life is abominable. And you who believe in a sequel, do you think there will be peace afterwards? There's bound to be storm and stress there too. There too. If there is there, then rather annihilation. How do you know annihilation would come without pain? I shall drop down dead, without pain. I see. You know that, do you? Yes, I know it. You aren't satisfied with your existence, are you? The captain, sighing. Satisfied? The day I die, I shall be satisfied. You can't know that. Now, tell me, what are you two up to in this house? What's going on here? The very walls smell of poison. One feels sick the moment one comes in. I'd rather be off if I hadn't promised Alice to stay. There's a corpse under the floor. such hatred that one can scarcely breathe. The captain collapses in his chair and stares vacantly. What's wrong with you? Edgar? The captain does not move. Edgar! The captain, coming to. Did you say something? Looking round. Oh, it's you. I thought it was Alice. No. Relapses into apathy again. Curt. Oh, this is terrible. Goes over and opens the door right. Alice! Alice enters wearing an apron. What's the matter? I don't know. Look at him. Alice calmly. He does sometimes lose his senses like this. I'll play. That will bring him round. Goes towards the piano. Curt. No, don't. Let me try. Can he hear? Can he see? At this moment he can neither hear nor see. Curt. Yet you can speak so calmly. Alice, what are you two up to in this house? Ask that man there. That man? What? He's your husband. To me, he's a stranger. As much of a stranger as 25 years ago. I know nothing about this man except that he's top. He may hear you. He can hear nothing now. A bugle call is heard. The captain springs to his feet and seizes his sword and cap. The captain. Excuse me. I must just inspect the posts. Exit the captain through the center doorway. Curt. What's the matter with him? I don't know. Is he out of his mind? I don't know. Does he drink? There's more boasting about it than drinking. Curt. Sit down and talk. Calmly and truthfully now. Alice, sitting. What am I to say? That I've been in this tower a lifetime? Imprisoned? Guarded by a man I've always hated? And now hate so utterly that the day he died I'd laugh aloud? Why haven't you separated? Question. Twice we broke off our engagement. And since then not a day has passed in which we haven't tried to separate. But we are welded together. We can't escape. Once we did separate in our own home for 5 years. But now only death can separate us. We know it, so we wait for him as the deliverer. Why are you so alone? Because he has isolated me. First he uprooted my brothers and sisters from the house. Uprooted is his own word for it. And after that my girlhood's friends. And the rest. Curt. But what about his relatives? Did you uproot them? Yes. For they were sapping my very life by robbing me of my honor and good name. In the end, my only contact with the world and other human beings was through that telegraph. For the telephone is spied on by the girls. I taught myself how to telegraph, but he doesn't know this. You mustn't tell him or he will kill me. Curt. Horrible. Horrible. But why does he blame me for your marriage? Let me tell you what really happened. When we were young, Edgar was my friend. He fell in love with you at first sight and came and asked me to act as go-between. I at once refused, and my dear Alice, as I knew you had a cruel and domineering streak in your nature, I warned him. Then, when he insisted, I sent him to ask your brother to plead for him. I believe what you say. But having deceived himself all these years, he'll never get the idea out of his head. Curt. Very well. Let him blame me if that makes him feel better. Well, that's asking too much. I'm used to it. But what does hurt is his unjust accusation that I deserted my children. That's how he is. He says what he chooses and he believes it. But he seems to like you. Chiefly, I suppose, because you don't contradict him. Please, try not to get tired of us. I think you've come at a fortunate moment for us. That your coming is an act of providence. Curt, you mustn't get tired of us, because we really are the most unhappy people in the whole world. One marriage I have seen at close quarters. And that was horrible. But this is almost worse. Do you think so? Yes.
Whose fault is it?
Alice, the moment you stop asking whose fault it is, you'll have a sense of relief. Just try to accept it as fact. As a trial that must be borne. I can't.
It's too much.
Rises. It's hopeless. You poor things.
Do you know why you hate one another?
No.
It's a quite unreasoning hatred. It has no cause, no object, but also no end. And why do you think he fears death most? He's afraid I shall marry again.
Then he loves you.
Maybe. But that doesn't stop him from hating me.
Curt, as if to himself.
That's known as love-hatred. And comes from the lowest depths.
Does he like you to play to him?
Yes, but only hideous tunes like that revolting entry of the Boyers. When he hears that, he goes quite crazy and has to dance.
Dance?
Yes. He's really very funny sometimes.
Curt.
Another thing, forgive my asking. Where are the children? Perhaps you don't know that 2 of them are dead?
Curt. You've been through that too?
What haven't I been through? But the 2 others. In the town. They couldn't stay at home. He set them against me.
And you against him?
Yes, naturally. Then it came to taking sides, canvassing, bribery. So, in order to not destroy the children, we parted from them. What should have been a bond drove us apart. The blessing of a home became its curse. Yes, sometimes I think our stock is cursed.
Curt.
Since the fall, yes. Alice, with a venomous glance, sharply. What fall? Adam and Eve's. Oh, I thought you meant something else. Alice wrings her hands. Curt. My cousin, my girlhood's friend. I have not always treated you as I should. But now I am punished. And you have your revenge. Not revenge. There is no revenge about it. Hush. Do you remember one Sunday, when you were engaged? I had you invited to dinner. Hush, I must speak. Have pity on me. When you came, we were out. You had to go away again.
Curt.
You had been asked out yourselves. It's not worth talking about.
Curt.
When I asked you to supper just now, I thought there was something in the larder. Hides her face in her hands. But there's nothing. Not even a bit of bread. And when he comes in and wants something to eat, and there isn't anything, he'll fly into a rage. You've never seen him in such a rage. Oh God, I'm so humiliated. Let me go out and put that right. There's nothing to be got on the island. Not for my sake, but for his and yours. I must think of something. Something. When he comes in, we must make a joke of it. I'll suggest we have a drink, and meanwhile, I'll think of something. Get him into a good humor. Play to him. Play any rubbish he likes. Sit at the piano and be ready. Look at my hands. Are they fit to play? I have to polish the brass and wipe the glasses, do the fires in the room. We have 2 servants. We have to say so, because he's an officer. But the servants keep on leaving. So sometimes we have none, more times than not. How shall I get out of this supper business? Oh, if only the house would catch fire.
Hush, Alice, hush.
Or the sea would rise and sweep us away.
No, I
what will he say?
You.
Don't go, Curt. Don't leave me. No. My poor friend, I won't go. But when you do go, has he ever struck you? struck me? Oh no, he knows that I would leave him. One must have some pride. Outside is heard.
Halt! Who goes there? Pass, friend.
Kurt, rising. Is that him? Alice, nervously. Yes, it's him. What on earth shall we do? I don't know. Enter the captain. Back. The captain, gaily.
There we are.
Now I'm free.
Well, has she got in all our complaints? Wretched life hers, what?
Kurt. How's the weather out there? The captain.
Half a gale.
Sets one of the doors ajar, furiously.
Sir Bluebird and the maiden in the tower, and outside the sentry marching with sword drawn, keeping watch over the beautiful maiden. And then come the brothers. But the sentry's on guard. Look at him. 1, 2, he's a fine sentry. Look at him. Meli tam tam ta, meli ta lia le. Shall we do the sword dance?
Kurt ought to see that. No. Have you seen the entry of the Boyers?
You know that, do you?
Alice, in the kitchen apron, come and play.
Come on, I say.
Alice goes unwillingly to the piano. He pinches her arm.
Been slandering me, haven't you?
I. Kurt turns away. Alice strikes up the entry of the Boyers. The captain does a kind of Hungarian dance behind the writing table, knocking with his spurs. Then he sinks to the floor unobserved by Kurt or Alice, who plays the piece to the end. Alice, without turning round. Shall we have it again? Silence. Alice turns and sees the captain lying unconscious on the floor behind the writing table. Lord Jesus! Alice stands with her arms crossed over her breast and gives a sigh of thankfulness and relief. Kurt turns and hurries to the captain. What is it? What is it? Alice, in a great state of tension. Is he dead? I don't know. Help me! Alice, without moving. I can't touch him. Is he dead? No. He's alive. Alice sighs. Kurt helps the captain up into a chair. The captain.
What happened?
You just fell down.
Was there any...
You fell on the floor. How do you feel now?
Feel? Nothing at all. I don't know anything about it. Why do you stand there gaping?
You are ill.
Fiddlesticks! Go on playing, Alice.
Now it's coming on again. Clasps his head. You see, you are ill.
Don't scream! It's only giddiness.
Kurt, we must have the doctor. I'll go and telephone. The captain.
I won't have the doctor.
We must call him for our sakes, or we'll be held responsible.
I'll throw him out if he comes.
I'll shoot him.
Here it is again.
Kurt, going to the door, right. I'll go and telephone right away. Exit Kurt. Alice takes off her apron. The captain.
Will you give me a glass of water?
I suppose I must. She gives him a glass of water.
How amiable.
Are you ill?
Excuse me for not being well.
Are you going to look after yourself, then?
You don't seem to want to do it.
Well, you can be sure of that.
The time has come that you've waited for so long.
Yes. And which you believed would never come.
Don't be angry with me.
Enter Kurt. That's the limit. What did he say? He rang off, without a word. Alice, to the captain. This is what comes of your monstrous arrogance.
I think it's getting worse.
Try and get a doctor from the town. Alice, going to the writing table. I shall have to telegraph them. The captain, half rising, amazed.
Can you telegraph?
Alice, telegraphing. Yes, I can. The captain.
Well, they'll go on then. What deceit. To Kurt. Come and sit by me. Kurt does so. Take my hand. I seem to be slipping down. Can you understand? Down somewhere. It's really quite queer.
Have you had attacks like this before?
Never.
While you're waiting for the answer from the town, I'm going over to have a talk with the doctor. Has he attended you before?
That he has.
Then he knows your constitution. Goes to the door. Alice. There'll be an answer here in a moment. It's kind of you, Kurt, but come back quickly. As quick as I can. Exit Kurt. The captain.
He is kind, Kurt. And so changed.
Yes, for the better. It's bad luck for him to be mixed up in your misery just now.
Good luck for us, though. I wonder how things really are with him.
Do you notice he wouldn't talk about his personal affairs? I noticed it. But then again, I don't think anyone asked him to.
Think of his life. And ours.
I wonder if everyone's life is like this. Perhaps. Though they don't talk about it as we do. I've sometimes thought misery attracts misery. And the happy shun unhappiness. That's why we see nothing but misery. Have you ever known any happy people?
Let me think. No.
Yes. The Ekmarks. What did you say? She had that operation last year.
That's true.
Well, then I don't know. Yes, the Von Krafts. Yes, that whole family lived idyllically for half a century. Well off, respected, good children, suitable marriages. Then that cousin went and committed a crime. Prison and all the rest of it. And that was the end of their peace. The family name was disgraced in all the newspapers. The Kraft murder made it impossible for that highly esteemed family to show their faces. The children had to be taken away from school.
Good God. I wonder what's the matter with me.
What do you think?
Heart. Or head. It's as if my soul is trying to escape and dissolve in smoke.
Have you any appetite?
Yes. What about supper?
Alice, walking out, uneasily. I'll ask Jenny.
But she's gone.
Yes, of course. Ring for Kristen so I can have some fresh water. Alice rings. Supposing... Rings again. She doesn't hear. The captain.
Go and see. Supposing she is gone too.
Alice opens the door, left. What's this? Her trunk is in the passage. Packed.
And she is gone.
This is hell.
The captain. And everything at once. Of course Kurt would come and find us in this mess. If there's one humiliation left, let it come now.
Do you know what I think? I think Kurt's gone. And won't come back.
I can quite believe it of him.
Yes, we are under a curse.
What on earth do you mean?
Don't you see how everyone avoids us?
I snap my fingers at them.
The telegraph begins tapping.
Here's the answer. Quiet. Let me listen. No one has time to... Excuses.
The tapping ceases. That's what you get for snapping your fingers at your doctors. And not paying their fees.
It's not that.
Even when you could, you wouldn't pay them. Because you despised their work. Just as you despised mine and everyone else's work. They won't come. And the telephone's cut off because you didn't consider that worth anything either. Nothing's worth anything except your own guns and cannons.
Don't stand there chattering.
The wheel has come
old wives' tales.
Do you know we owe Kristen 6 months' wages?
Well, she has stolen that much.
But I've had to borrow from her too.
I can believe it of you.
How How ungrateful you are. You know I lent the money for the children's journey.
Kurt's made a pretty comeback.
Rotter like the rest of them.
And coward. Didn't dare say he'd had enough and it was more amusing at the doctor's ball.
Suppose he expected a poor supper here.
Just like the wretch.
Kurt enters hastily, left. Kurt. Well, my dear Edgar, this is how it is. The doctor has a thorough knowledge of your heart.
Heart?
Yes. For a long time you've had a calcified heart, and...
Is it dangerous?
Yes. That's to say...
It is dangerous.
Yes.
Fatal?
You must take great care. First of all, cigars. Away with them. The captain throws away his cigar. Then whiskey. Away with it. And then to bed. The captain, alarmed.
No. That I won't do.
Not to bed.
That means the end. That means never getting up again. I'll spend the night on the couch. What else did he say?
He was very friendly and will come at once if you call him.
Friendly, was he? The hypocrite. I won't see him. Am I allowed to eat?
Not tonight. And the next few days only milk.
Milk?
I can't stand it. You'll have to learn to.
No. I'm too old to learn. Here it is again.
He remains sitting, staring into space. Alice to Kurt. What did the doctor say? That he might die. God be praised. Take care, Alice. Take care. Now go and get a pillow and a blanket. I'm going to put him to bed on the couch and spend the night in that chair. And you go to bed. The sight of you seems to make him worse. Command? I'll obey. For you mean well by us both. Both. Mark that. I don't take sides. Exit Alice, left. Kurt picks up the water carafe. Exit right. The gale outside is heard. Then the glass doors blow open, and an old woman of poor and unpleasing appearance peers in. The captain comes to, sits up, and looks about him. The captain.
So they've deserted me, the rotters.
Catches sight of the old woman and is startled. Who is it? What do you want? Old woman.
I just wanted to shut the door, kind sir.
The captain.
Why did you? Why?
Because it blew open just as I was passing.
You meant to steal.
There's not much to take, according to Kristen.
Kristen?
Good night, sir. Sleep well.
She goes out, shutting the door. Alice enters left with pillows and a blanket. The captain.
Who was that at the door? Was there anybody?
Yes, it was old Maya from the poorhouse going by.
Are you sure?
Are you scared?
Scared? I? No.
As you don't want to go to bed, lie down here now. The captain lies down on the couch. The captain.
Yes, I'll lie down here.
As Alice puts the blanket over him, he tries to take her hand, but she draws it away. Kurt enters with the water carafe.
Don't leave me, Kurt.
I'm staying with you all night. Alice is going to bed.
Good night then, Alice.
Good night, Kurt. Exit Alice, left. Kurt draws up a chair and sits down beside the couch. Don't you want to take your boots off?
No. A soldier must always be equipped.
Are you expecting a battle then?
Perhaps.
Sits up.
Kurt, you're the only person I can confide in. Listen to me. If I die tonight, look after my children.
I'll do that.
Thank you. I trust you.
Tell me, why do you trust me?
We haven't been friends. I don't believe in friendship. and our two families were born enemies and have always been at war.
And yet you trust me?
Yes. I don't know why. Do you think I'm going to die?
You like everyone else. No exception is made for you.
You're bitter, aren't you?
Yes. Are you afraid of dying? The wheelbarrow and the garden plot.
Think if that were not the end.
Many people do think it's not.
And then?
Utter astonishment, I imagine.
But one knows nothing for certain.
No. That's just it. So one has to be ready for anything.
You're not so childish as to believe in hell, are you?
Don't you believe in it?
You who are right in it? Only metaphorically.
You've described your hell so realistically that metaphors, however poetic, are out of the picture.
If you knew what agonies I'm suffering.
Physical?
No. Not physical.
Then they must be spiritual. There's no third alternative. The captain, raising himself. I don't want to die. A little while ago you wanted annihilation.
Yes, if it's painless.
But we know it's not.
Is this annihilation?
The beginning of it.
Good night.
Good night. Scene 2. Scene the same. The lamp is going out. Through the windows and the glass panes of the doors, a cloudy morning is seen. The sea is rough. The sentry is at his post as before. The captain is lying on the couch asleep. Kurt is in the chair beside him, pale and vigil-worn. Alice enters, left. Alice. Is he asleep? Kurt. Yes. Since what should have been sunrise. How was the night? He slept from time to time, but he would talk so much. What about? He kept on arguing about religion like a schoolboy, yet claimed to have solved the riddle of the universe. Finally, towards dawn, he discovered the immortality of the soul. To his own honor. Exactly. He really is the most arrogant person I've ever met. I am. Therefore God exists. Now you see. Look at those boots. He'd have trampled the earth flat with them if he could. He's trampled other people's fields and gardens with them and other people's toes. And my skull. Killer Bear, you've got your bullet now. Kurt. He would be a comic if he were not tragic. And there's a touch of greatness in his pettiness. Can't you say one good word for him? Alice, sitting down. Yes. So long as he doesn't hear it. One word of encouragement sends him mad with pride. He can't hear anything. He has had morphia. He was brought up in a poor home with many brothers and sisters, and early on had to support his family by giving lessons, as his father was a waster, or worse. It's pretty hard for a young man to have to forego all the pleasures of youth and slave for a pack of ungrateful children whom he hadn't brought into the world. When I was a little girl, I used to see Edgar as a young man. He had no overcoat in winter, in freezing winter, but his little sisters had duffel coats. That was fine, and I admired him. That was ugliness made me shudder. And his ugliness can be pretty sinister. I noticed that, especially when we weren't on good terms. And when he wasn't actually present, his image swelled and took on frightful shapes and sizes, so that he literally haunted me. Then think of me. But his years as a young officer were certainly a martyrdom. although now and then he got help from somebody rich. He never will admit that. He's taken everything that he could get as a tribute that was his due, without a word of thanks. We were to speak well of him, after he's dead. Oh well. I don't remember anymore. Do you think he's vindictive? Yes. And yet he can be so kind and sentimental. As an enemy, he's simply terrible. Why hasn't he been promoted? You ought to know that for yourself. They don't want a man over them who was a tyrant when he was under them. But you mustn't let on you know about that. He says himself he didn't want to be a major. Did he mention the children at all? Yes, Mrs. Judith. I can well believe it. Oh, do you know what Judith is? His own image, whom he has trained to bait me. Just think, she, my own daughter, raised her hand against me. That's going too far. Hush. He's moving. Supposing he heard. He's cunning, too. He's just waking up. Doesn't he look like an ogre? I'm frightened of him. The captain stirs, wakes, sits up, and looks about. It's morning. At last. Kurt, how do you feel now? Bad. Do you want the doctor? No. I want to see Judith, my child. Kurt, wouldn't it be wise to get your affairs in order before... in case anything should happen? What do you mean? What should happen? What happens to us all? Oh, rot. I shan't die as easily as that, you may be sure. Don't rejoice prematurely, Alice. Kurt, think of your children. Make your will, so that at least your wife can keep the furniture. Is she to inherit while I'm still alive? No. But if anything does happen, she oughtn't to be thrown out into the street. The person who has looked after these things for 25 years and polished and dusted them, she ought to have the right to keep them. Shall I send for the lawyer? No. You're a hard man. Harder than I thought. Oh, here it comes again. He falls back, unconscious on the couch. Alice, moving right. There's someone in the kitchen. I must go. Yes, go. There's nothing much to do here. Exit Alice, right. The captain, regaining consciousness. Well, Kurt, how do you mean to run this quarantine station? It will work out. But I'm commandant on the island, so you'll have to deal with me. Don't forget that. Have you seen a quarantine station? Have I? Yes. Before you were born. And I'll give you a piece of advice. Don't put the disinfecting chambers too near the shore. I thought they ought to be near the water. That shows you how much you know about your business. Why, water's the element of the bacilli. Their life element. But salt water's essential for washing away impurities. Idiot! Now, as soon as you've settled in, you must bring your children here. Do you think they'll let themselves be brought? Of course. If you're anything of a man, it would make a good impression on the neighborhood to see you doing your duty in that respect too. I've always done my duty in that respect. The captain, raising his voice. It's in that respect you've failed most. Haven't I told you that? Because one doesn't desert one's children in that way. Oh, how you do go on. As a relative of yours, an elder relative, I feel it is my place to tell you the truth, even if it's bitter. And you mustn't take it amiss. Are you hungry? Yes, I am. Would you like something light? No. Something substantial. That would be the end of you. It isn't enough to be ill without starving too. That's how it is. And not to drink and not to smoke. Such a life scarcely worth living. Death requires sacrifices. or else he comes at once. Alice enters with some flowers, telegrams, and letters. Alice. These are for you. She tosses the flowers on the writing table. The captain, flattered. For me? Let me see them. Alice, giving him the telegrams and letters. Oh, they're only from the band and the bombardiers. You're jealous. Oh, no. If they were laurel wreaths, it would be a different matter. But you can never get those. Here's a wire from the colonel. Read it, Kurt. The colonel's a gentleman anyhow, though he's a bit of an ass. This one's from... what does it say? It's from Judith. Please wire her to come to the next boat. And this. So one's not without friends after all. It's good of them to think of a sick man, a deserving man better than his rank, without fear and without reproach. Alice. I don't understand. Are they congratulating you for being ill? The captain. Hyena. Alice to Kurt. Yes, we had a doctor here who was so much hated that when he left after the island they gave a banquet not for him, but after him. Put the flowers in vases. I'm certainly not credulous. And people are scum, but this simple homage. By God, it's genuine. It can't be anything but genuine. Alice. Fool. Kurt, reading the telegram. Judith says she can't come because the boat's held up by the storm. The captain. Is that all? No, there's a bit more. She begs Papa not to drink so much. What impertinence. There's children for you. There's my own beloved daughter, my Judith, my idol. And image. There's life for you. And its greatest blessings. And devil take it. Now you're reaping what you sowed. You set her against her mother, now she's turning against her father. Tell me there isn't a God. The captain to Kurt. What does the colonel say? He grants you a leave of absence. Nothing more. Leave of absence? I haven't asked for it. Alice. No, but I have. I don't accept it. Arrangements have already been made. I don't accept that. You see, Kurt, for this man no laws exist. He doesn't recognize any rules or regulations. He's above everything, everybody. The universe is created for his private use. The sun and the moon revolve to carry his praises to the stars. Such is my husband. The insignificant captain who can never become a major, whose pompousness makes him a laughingstock to everyone, while he imagines he is feared. This poor creature who's afraid of the dark and puts his faith in barometers, and all this adds up to what a curtain! A barrel full of manure, and not of the best quality. The captain has been fanning himself complacently with a bunch of flowers and not listening to Alice. The captain. Have you asked Kurt to breakfast? No. Then go at once and prepare 2 steaks. 2 really good Chateaubriands. 2. I'm going to have one. But there are 3 of us. Are you going to have some? I'll get 3 then. Where am I to get them? Last night you asked Kurt to supper and there wasn't a crust of bread in the house. Kurt has had to keep watch all night on an empty stomach. And he's had no coffee because there isn't any. And our credit's finished. She's angry with me for not dying yesterday. No, for not dying 25 years ago. For not dying before I was born. Listen to her. This is the result of your matchmaking, my dear Kurt. Our marriage wasn't made in heaven, that's for certain. Alice and Kurt look at each other menacingly. The captain rises and goes towards the door left. However, say what you will. I'm going on duty now. He puts on an old-fashioned artillery helmet, fastens on his sword, and puts on his cape. Alice and Kurt try to stop him, but in vain. Out of my way! Exit. Yes, go. You always do go. You always turn your back when the battle gets too hot for you and you leave your wife to cover up your retreat. Boozer! Boaster, liar! Curses on you! This is a bottomless pit, and you don't know it all yet. Is there more to come? I'm ashamed. Where is he gone now? And how has he got the strength? You may well ask. Well, he has gone down to the bombardiers to thank them for the flowers, and then I'll eat and drink with them and slander his fellow officers. If you knew how many times he's been threatened with dismissal. Only consideration for his family has kept him in his post, and he imagines it's fear of his superiority. And those poor officers' wives who have taken pains on our behalf, he hates and abuses. Kurt, I must confess that I applied for this post in order to get some peace out here by the sea. I knew nothing of your circumstances. Poor Kurt. How will you get something to eat? Oh, I'll go to the doctor's. But what about you? Please, let me arrange something for you. So long as he doesn't know about it. If he did, he'd kill me. Kurt, looking out of the window. Look. There he is out in the storm on the rampart. He is to be pitied for being like this. You are both to be pitied. What can be done? I don't know. A batch of bills came too, which he didn't see. It can be an advantage sometimes not to see. Alice, at the window. He has opened his cape and is letting the wind blow on his breast. So he wants to die. I don't think he wants to, for just now when he felt his own life ebbing away, he held fast onto mine and began to busy himself with my affairs, as if he wanted to get inside me and live my life. That is his vampire nature, to seize hold of other people's fates, to suck interest from the lives of others, to order and arrange for others because his own life is absolutely without interest. So remember, Kurt, never let him into your family life. Never allow him to know your friends, for he'll take them from you and make them his own. He's a real wizard at that. If he met your children, he would soon find they were his nearest and dearest. And he'd tell them what to do and bring them up to suit his own ideas, and above all, against you. Alice, it wasn't he who took my children away from me. It was he. When, putting your entire trust in my husband, you sent him out as a mediator to your wife. He started an affair with her, and put her up to how she could get the children. Oh God. Oh God in heaven. There you have another side of him. Do you know, last night when he thought he was dying, he made me to promise to look after his children. But surely you won't revenge yourself on my children. By keeping my promise? Yes. I shall look after your children. That is really the greatest revenge you could take. For there's nothing he loathes so much as magnanimity. Kurt, so I can consider myself revenged, without taking any revenge. I love the justice of revenge. It delights me to see how evil gets punished. You still feel like that? Yes, and always shall. The day I forgave or loved an enemy, I should be a hypocrite. Alice, it can be a duty not to say everything, not to see everything. That's known as tolerance, a thing we all need. I don't. My life is open and clear, and I have always been above board. That's saying a lot, but it's not saying enough. What haven't I gone through for no fault of my own? For this man whom I have never loved. Why did you marry? Ask yourself. Because he took me, seduced me. I don't know. And then I wanted to better myself. So you abandoned your art, which was despised. But you see, he cheated me. He promised me a good life, a beautiful home, and there was nothing but debts. The only gold was in his uniform, and that wasn't gold either. He cheated me. Wait a bit. When a young man falls in love, he sees ahead the fulfillment of all of his hopes. He must be forgiven if these hopes aren't always realized. I had the same deceit on my own conscience, without considering myself a cheat. What are you looking at out there? I was looking to see if he had fallen. Has he fallen? Unfortunately not. He always cheats me. Well, I shall go and see the doctor and the district attorney. Alice, seating herself by the window. Go, my dear Kurt. I shall sit here and wait. I have learnt how to wait. Act 2. Scene 1. 2 days later. Scene the same, by daylight. The sentry is marching by the battery as before. Alice is sitting in the armchair right. Her hair is now grey. There is a knock on the door left, and Kurt enters. Kurt. Good morning, Alice. Good morning, my dear. Sit down. Kurt, sitting in the armchair left. Steamer's just come in. Then I know what we're in for. If he's on it. He is. I saw the glitter of his helmet. I wonder what he's been doing in town. I can tell you. As he was in parade dress, he was seeing the colonel. And as he took his best gloves, he was paying calls. Did you notice how quiet he was yesterday? Since he stopped drinking, he's been a different person. Calm, reserved, considerate. I know. If that man had always kept sober, he would have been a power to reckon with. Perhaps it's lucky for people that he made himself ridiculous and impotent with his whiskey. The spirit of the bottle has chastened him. But have you noticed that since death has set his mark on him, he has this kind of lofty dignity? It's possible that these new thoughts of immortality have given him a new view of life. You're deceiving yourself. He's up to no good. And don't believe a word he says, because he lies deliberately, and knows the art of intrigue better than anybody. Kurt, gazing at Alice. Alice, what's this? In these 2 nights your hair has turned grey. No, my dear. It has been like that for a long time. I have simply stopped darkening it, as my husband is as good as dead. 25 years in a fortress. Did you know this was a prison in olden times? The walls look it. So does my complexion. Even the children had the pallor of prison here. I find it kind of hard to imagine small children prattling within these walls. Nor do they prattle much. And the 2 who died perished from lack of light. Kurt, what do you think is going to happen now? A determined attack on us. I saw a familiar gleam in his eye when you read out that telegram from Judith. It should, of course, have been for her, but she, as you know, always gets off scot-free. So his hatred descended on you. Kurt, what does he mean to do to me, do you think? Hard to say. But he's very clever. Or lucky, in nosing out other people's secrets. You must have noticed yesterday how he seemed to be living in your quarantine station. How he was sucking an interest in life from your existence and eating your children alive. Man-eater, you see. His own life is ebbing hers. Already ebbed. I have that impression, too, that he is already on the other side. His face seems phosphorescent, as if he's begun to decompose, and his eyes flicker like will-o'-the-wisps over graves and swamps. Here he comes. Tell me, have you thought of the possibility of him being jealous? Alice. No, he's too conceited for that. Show me the man I would need to be jealous of, that's what he says. So much the better. Even his faults have their merits. Well, in any case, shall I go out and meet him? No. be ungracious, or else he'll think you're insincere. And when he starts lying, pretend to believe him. I'm so good at translating his lies and can always get at the truth with my dictionary. I feel something terrible is going to happen. But Kurt, don't lose your self-control. My one advantage in the long struggle has been that I was always sober, and therefore had my wits about me. He always resorted to his whiskey. Now we shall see. Enter the captain, left, in parade dress, helmet, cape, and white gloves. Calm, dignified, but pale and hollow-eyed. He stumbles forward and sits down right, still in his helmet and cape, at a distance from Kurt and Alice. During the following dialogue, the captain holds his sword between his knees. Good morning. I apologize for sitting down like this, but I'm rather tired. Alice. How are you? Fine. Just a little tired. What news from town? This and that. Among other things, I went to the doctor, and he said it was nothing, and I could live another 20 years if I looked after myself. Alice to Kurt aside. Now he's lying. To the captain. That's very good news, my dear. That it was. Silence, during which the captain looks at Alice and Kurt expectantly. Alice to Kurt. Don't say anything. Let him talk first. Then he'll show his hand. The captain to Alice. Did you speak? No, I didn't. Listen, Kurt. You see, now it's coming. I was in town, as you know. Kurt nods assent. Well, I made the acquaintance, among others, of a young cadet in the artillery. Pause, during which Kurt appears uneasy. As we are short of cadets here, I arranged with the colonel that he should come over. That ought to please you, particularly when I tell you that this cadet was your own son. Alice to Kurt. Vampire! You see? Kurt. In the ordinary way that would please a father, but in my circumstances it is merely painful. I don't understand. You don't need to. It's enough that I don't want this. Really? Is that how you feel? Then you had better know that the young man has been ordered to report here. And from that moment he takes his orders from me. I shall make him to apply to be transferred to another regiment. You can't do that, as you have no rights over your own son. The court assigned those to the mother. Then I will get in touch with his mother. You don't need to do that, because I've already done it. Ha! Kurt rises, but subsides again. Alice to Kurt. Now he must die. He really is a man-eater. So much for that. Did you two say something? No. Is anything wrong with your hearing? Yes, slightly. But if you'll come nearer, I'll tell you something in confidence. That's not necessary. And a witness may be adventurous to both parties. You're right there. It's always good to have a witness. First of all, have you got the will ready? Alice, handing him a document. The solicitor drew it up himself. In your favor. Good. He reads the document and tears it carefully into strips, which he throws on the floor. So much for that. Alice to Kurt. Did you ever see such a man? He isn't a man. Now, Alice, I have this to say to you. Well, go on. On account of your long-expressed desire to put an end to this miserable life in an unfortunate union, on account of the lack of affection with which you have treated your husband and children, and on account of your neglect of your household duties during my visit to town today, I filed a petition for divorce at the county court. Indeed? On what grounds? The captain, calmly as before. Apart from the grounds already mentioned, on purely personal ones. In fact, now that it has been established that I may live for another 20 years, I have it in mind to exchange this unfortunate union for one that suits me better. I intend to untie my destiny with that of a woman who will bring into the home not only devotion to her husband, but youth, and, let it be said, a little beauty. Alice takes off her wedding ring and throws it at the captain. Here you are! The captain picks up the ring and puts it in his waistcoat pocket. The captain. She has thrown away her ring. Will the witness kindly mark that? Alice, agitated. So you mean to throw me out and put another woman in my house? Maybe. Then we'll have some plain speaking now. Kurt, my cousin, this man is guilty of attempting to murder his wife. To murder? Yes. He pushed me into the water. There were no witnesses. That's a lie. Judith saw it. What's that matter? She can give evidence. No, she can't. She says she saw nothing. You've taught the child to lie. I had no need to. You taught her that already. Did you see Judith? Yes. Oh, God. Oh, God. Fortress has surrendered. The enemy is granted 10 minutes for evacuation under safe conduct. Puts his watch on the table. 10 minutes by the watch on the table. The captain remains standing with his hand on his heart. Alice goes up to him and seizes his arm. What is this? I don't know. Do you want something? A drink? Whiskey? No. I don't want to die, see? Straightens up. Don't touch me. Draws his sword. 10 minutes. Or the garrison will be cut down. Exit. Kurt. What is this man? He's a fiend, not a man. What does he want with my son? He wants him as a hostage, so that he can be your master. He wants to isolate you from the island authorities. You know that people call this island Little Hell. Oh, I didn't know. Alice, you are the first woman who has aroused my pity. All the others seem to me to deserve what they got. Don't desert me now. Don't leave me. He beats me. He has beat me for 25 years in front of the children, too. He has pushed me into the sea. After this revolution, I am utterly against him. I came here without ill feeling, putting out of my mind his former humiliations and slanders. I forgave him even when you told me that it was he who had separated me from my children, because he was sick and dying. But now that he wants to rob me of my son, he must die. He or I. Well said. No surrender of the fortress. Rather, blow it up, and him with it. Even if we must perish too. I have the gunpowder ready. When I came here, I bore no malice. And when I felt myself infected by your hatred, I made up my mind to go away. But now I feel impelled to hate this man, as I have hated evil itself. What is to be done? He has taught me the tactics. Rouse his enemies and seek allies. To think of him getting in touch with my wife. Why didn't those two meet a generation ago? Then there would have been battles enough to shake the earth. But now these kindred spirits have met, and they must be separated. I think I know his vulnerable point. I have long suspected it. Who is his surest enemy on the island? The quartermaster. Is he an honest fellow? Yes, he is. And he knows what I know too. He knows what the sergeant major and the captain have been up to. What have they been up to? Do you mean embezzlement? That's really shocking. No, I won't have anything to do with that. Ha. So you can't aim a blow at an enemy. I could once, but I can't now. Why not? Because I have discovered that retribution comes in any case. While you're waiting for it, your son will be taken from you. Look at my grey hair. Yes, and feel how thick it still is. He means to get married, so I'm free to do the same. And in 10 minutes' time, he will be down below, under arrest, stamping on the floor. Down below! And I shall dance on his head. I shall dance the entry of the Boyers. She dances a few steps with her hands on her hips. And I shall play the piano so he hears. Bangs on the keys. Ah, the tower is opening its gates, and the guard with the drawn sword will not be guarding me any more, but him! Melitamta, melitaliale, him! Him will be the guard. Kurt watches her fascinated. Alice, are you a devil too? Alice jumps on a chair and pulls down the laurel wreaths. These I will take with me when I make my exit. The laurels of triumph and waving ribbons. A little bit dusty but eternally green like my youth. I am not old, Kurt. Kurt, with shining eyes. You're a devil. In little hell. Look, now I must make myself beautiful. Takes down her hair. In 2 minutes I shall dress, and another 2 go to the quartermaster, and then up goes the fortress sky high. Kurt, as before. You're a devil. Alice, you always said that, even when we were children. Do you remember when we were children and got engaged? You were shy, of course. Kurt, seriously. Alice! Yes, you were, and it suited you. You know, there are bold women who like shy men, and seems there are shy men who like bold women. You did like me rather in those days, didn't you? I don't know where I am, with an actress whose manners are free, but who is all the same a very fine woman. Yes, but now I am free. Free! Turn your back while I change my blouse. She unbuttons her blouse. Kurt rushes forward, takes her in his arms, and lifts her up. He bites her neck and she screams. Then Kurt throws Alice down onto the couch and rushes out left. Scene 2. Scene, the same, in the evening. The sentry by the battery continues to be seen through the windows of the center doorway. The laurel wreaths are hanging on the arm of a chair. The center lamp is lighted. Soft music. The captain, pale and hollow-eyed, with grizzled hair, in shabby undress uniform and riding boots, is sitting at the writing table playing Patience. He is wearing spectacles. The interval music continues after the curtain rises, until the new character appears. The captain lays out his patience, but now and then gives a start or looks up and listens anxiously. Apparently he can't get the patience out. He grows impatient and sweeps the cards together. Then he goes to the left window, opens it and throws the pack out. The window remains open, grinding on its hooks. He goes to the sidebar, is alarmed by the noise made by the window, and turns to see what it is. He takes out 3 dark, square whiskey bottles, examines them, then throws them out of the window. Next he takes some cigar boxes, sniffs inside one, and throws them out of the window. After this he removes his spectacles, wipes them, and tests how well he can see with them. Then he throws these 2 out of the window. Now he stumbles about among the furniture, as if he can't see properly, and lights the 6-candled candelabra on the bureau. Catching sight of the laurel wreaths, he picks them up and goes towards the window, but turns back. He takes the cover off of the piano and carefully wraps the wreaths in it, fastening the corners with pins from the writing table, then lays the bundle on a chair. He goes to the piano, bangs the keys with his fists, slams the lid, locks it, and throws the key out of the window. Then he lights the piano candles. He goes to the whatnot, takes his wife's photograph, looks at it, and tears it up, throwing the pieces onto the floor. The window grinds on its hooks, and he is again alarmed. When he has calmed down once more, he takes the portraits of his son and daughter, kisses them, and puts them in his breast pocket. The rest of the portraits he sweeps down with his elbow and kicks into a heap. Then he sits down warily at the writing table and clutches his heart, lights the candle on the table and sighs, then stares in front of him as if seeing dreadful visions. He rises, goes to the bureau, opens the flap and takes out a bundle of letters tied up with blue ribbon, which he throws into the stove. He closes the bureau. The telegraph taps once, and then stops. The captain shrinks back in mortal terror and remains standing with his hand to his heart, listening. When he hears nothing further from the telegraph, he turns, listening towards the door left. Then he goes over and opens it, steps out, and returns carrying a cat and stroking its back. The captain goes out right with the cat. The music stops. Alice comes in from the back. She is in outdoor clothes with darkened hair and wears a hat and gloves. She looks round, surprised to see so many lights. Kurt comes in left, obviously nervous. Alice, it looks like Christmas Eve in here. Well? Alice, holding out her hand for him to kiss. Thank me. Kurt reluctantly kisses her hand. 6 witnesses. 4 of them firm as rock. The charge has been laid and the reply is coming here, by telegraph right into the fortress. I see. Say thank you, not I see. Why has he lighted so many candles? Because he's afraid of the dark, of course. Look at that telegraph key. It looks like the handle of a coffee grinder, doesn't it? I grind, and the beans crack, like when teeth are drawn out. What has he been doing to the room? It looks as if he means to move. And move he shall. Down below. Alice, don't talk like that. I find it revolting. He was a friend of my youth and did me many a kindness when I was in difficulties. He is to be pitied. And what about me, who have done nothing wrong and have had to sacrifice my career to this? What about that monster? Was it so brilliant? What on earth do you mean? Don't you know who I am? What I was? Now, are you beginning to... Already? Alice flings her arms round Kurt's neck and kisses him. Kurt takes hold of her arms and bites her neck. She screams, "You bit me!" Kurt, beside himself, "Yes. I want to bite your throat and suck your blood like a lynx. You've roused the wild beast in me which for years I've been trying to kill by self-denial and penance. I came here thinking myself rather better than you two. But now I know I am the vilest of the 3. Now that I've seen you in the full horror of your nakedness, now that passion has distorted my vision, I know the full forces of evil. Ugliness has become beauty, and goodness is growing ugly and feeble. Come to me. I will suffocate you with a kiss." He embraces her. Alice, showing him her ring finger. "Look at the mark of the fetter you have broken. I was a slave and now I'm free. But I shall bind you." "You?" "I thought at one moment you were pious." "Yes, you talked about the fall." "Did I? I thought you had come here to preach." "Did you?" "In an hour we shall be in town. Then you shall see what I am. We'll go to the theater tonight, and let everyone see us. The shame will be his if I run away. You realize that, don't you?" "Kurt, I'm beginning to realize it. Prison is not enough. No, it's not enough. There must be shame, too. A queer world. You commit a shameful act and he has to bear the shame. Alice, as the world is so stupid. It's as if these prison walls had soaked in all the evil of the criminals, and one only had to breathe in here to catch it. Alice, you were thinking about the theater and supper. Kurt, I was thinking about my son." Alice strikes him across the mouth with her glove. Alice, "Prig!" Kurt raises his hand to box her ears. Alice shrinks back. "Tu bon." Kurt, "Forgive me." "On your knees, then. On your face." Kurt touches the floor with his forehead. "Kiss my foot." Kurt kisses her foot. "Never do that again. Get up." Kurt, rising. "What have I come to? Where am I? You know where." Kurt, looking round in horror. "I almost think I'm..." The captain enters right, leaning on a stick and looking wretched. The captain. "May I talk with you, Kurt? Alone." Alice. About the safe conduct. The captain, sitting at the sewing table.
Would you be so kind as to stay here with me for a moment, Kurt? And Alice, will you grant us one moment's peace?
What is it now, then? New signals? To Kurt. Do sit down. Kurt unwillingly sits at the sewing table. And listen to the words of age and wisdom. If a telegram comes, let me know. Exit Alice left. The captain, after a pause, with dignity.
Do you understand a human destiny like mine? Like hers and mine?
No. As little as I understand my own.
And what is the meaning of this mess?
In my better moments I have thought that the meaning was just that we should not understand. And yet submit. Submit! Without some fixed point outside myself, I can't submit. Obviously not. But as a mathematician, you should be able to find that unknown point from the data given to you.
I have searched for it, but I haven't found it.
Then you've made some mistake in your calculations. Begin again.
I will begin again.
Tell me, how did you become so resigned? I'm not any longer. Don't overrate me.
You may have observed that my practice of the art of living has been elimination. That's to say, to cancel out and pass on. Early in life, I made myself a sack into which I stuffed my humiliations. And when it was full, I chucked it into the sea. I don't believe any human being has suffered so many humiliations as I have. But when I cancelled them out and passed on, they ceased to exist.
I have noticed how you have created your own life in your imagination, and created your own environment.
How could I have borne life if I hadn't? How could I have endured?
Presses his hand to his heart. How are you feeling?
Bad.
Pause. After which he speaks in an old man's quavering voice, his lower jaw sagging.
Well, there comes a moment when the ability to create an imagination, as you call it, fails. And then reality stands out in all its nakedness. That's terrible. You see, my dear friend, forgive me. When I was in town just now and saw the doctor, he said that I was done for. And that I couldn't live for long.
He said that?
Yes, he said that.
Then it wasn't true.
What wasn't?
Oh, I see.
No, it wasn't true.
Wasn't the other thing true either?
What, my dear fellow?
About my son being sent here as a cadet.
I haven't heard a word about that.
You know, your ability to cancel out your own misdeeds is unparalleled.
My dear friend, I don't know what you're talking about.
Then you are done for.
There's not much of me left.
Kurt, look here. Perhaps you didn't really file a petition for that divorce which would bring your wife into such disgrace.
Divorce? No, I heard nothing of that.
Then you admit that you were lying. You use such strong language, my dear man. We all need to have allowances made for us. You've found that out, have you? The captain, firmly, in a clear voice. Yes, I have found that out. So forgive me, Kurt. Forgive the whole business. Well said. But I have nothing to forgive you. And I'm not now the man you believe me to be, and I'm quite unworthy to receive your confidences. The captain, in a clear voice. Life has been so strange, so against me, so vindictive. And people were so vindictive that I became vindictive too. Kurt walks about uneasily and looks at the telegraph apparatus. What are you looking at? Can one switch off a telegraph receiver? Hardly. Kurt, with increasing anxiety. Who is this Sergeant Major Strindberg? An honest enough fellow. And what about the quartermaster? He's got his knife into me all right, but I've nothing against him. Kurt looks out of the window and sees a moving lantern. Why have they got a lantern out on the battery? Is there a lantern there? Yes, and people moving around. It's probably what we call a fatigue party. What's that? A few men and a bombardier. Probably some poor fellow's going to be locked up. Oh. Now that you know Alice, what do you think of her? I can't tell you. I don't understand people at all. She is as much an enigma to me as you are, as I am myself. The fact is, I'm getting to the age when wisdom admits I know nothing. I understand nothing. But when I see an action, I want to know its motive. Why did you push her into the water? I don't know. It just seemed perfectly natural to me that when I saw her on the jetty that she should go in. Didn't you feel any remorse? Never. That's extraordinary. Yes, it certainly is. So extraordinary that I can't believe it was I who behaved in such a caddish way. Didn't it occur to you that she'd take her revenge? She certainly has. Fully. And I find that equally natural. How have you arrived so quickly at this cynical resignation? Since looking death in the eyes, life has presented itself from another angle. Listen, if you had to judge between Alice and me, which of us would you say is in the right? Neither. But I'm desperately sorry for you both. Perhaps a little more for you. Give me your hand, Kurt. Kurt gives the captain his hand and puts the other on his shoulder. Old friend. Alice enters left, carrying a parasol. Dear me, what's intimacy? There's friendship for you. Hasn't the telegram come? Kurt, coldly. No. I have no patience with this delay. And when I have no patience, I speed things up. Watch now, Kurt, I'm going to fire the last bullet at him, and then he'll fall. First I load. I know the rifle manual, you see, that famous rifle manual which never sold 5,000 copies. Then I take aim. Aims with her parasol. Fire! How is the new wife? The young, the lovely, the unknown. You don't know. But I know how my lover is. She throws her arm round Kurt and kisses him. He pushes her away. He's quite well, but he's still shy. To the captain. You poor wretch. whom I have never loved. You were too conceited to be jealous. You couldn't see how I've been leading you by the nose. The captain draws his sword and rushes at her, but only succeeds in striking the furniture. Help! Help! Kurt does not move. The captain falls with the sword in his hand. Judith! Judith! Avenge me! Hurrah, he is dead! Kurt moves toward the door. Back. The captain, rising. Not yet. He sheathes his sword and goes to sit in the armchair by the sewing table. Judith! Judith! Alice, going to Kurt. I'm coming now. With you. Kurt pushes her away so that she falls to her knees. Go to the hell from which you came. Goodbye forever. Turns toward the door. The captain. Don't leave me, Kurt. She'll kill me. Kurt, don't desert me. Don't desert us. Goodbye. Exit Kurt. Alice, with a complete change of mood. What a wretch. There's a friend for you. The captain, gently. Forgive me, Alice, and come over here. Come quickly. Alice, going to him. I've never met such a wretch and such a hypocrite in all my life. You are a man, I will say that for you. The captain. Alice, listen. I can't live much longer. What? The doctor said so. Then all that other talk wasn't true. No. Alice, distraught. Oh, what have I done? It can all be put right. This can't be put right. There's nothing that can't be put right. So long as one cancels it out and passes it on. But the telegram. The telegram! What telegram? Alice falls on her knees beside the captain. Are we doomed? Must this happen? I've destroyed myself. I've destroyed us both. Oh, why did you pretend to have done all that? And why did that man come and tempt me? We are lost. Everything could have been put right. Everything could have been forgiven in the bigness of your heart. What is there that can't be forgiven? What haven't I forgiven you? That's true. But this can't be put right. I can't guess this one. Although I know your devilish powers of invention. Oh, if I could only get out of this. If I could only get out of this, I could take such good care of you. Edgar, I would love you. Just listen to that. Wherever am I? Do you realize no one can help us? No one on earth. Who else then? Alice, looking him in the eyes. I don't know. Oh, what is to become of the children with their name dishonored? Have you dishonored their name? Not I, not I. Now they'll have to leave school, and when they go out into the world, they'll be as lonely as us and as spiteful as us. Then you didn't meet Judith either. I realize that now. No. But cancel that out. The telegraph taps. Alice jumps up. Alice, screaming. Now we are done for. Don't listen to it. The captain, calmly. I won't listen to it, dear child. Calm yourself. Alice stands by the telegraph and gets on her toes so as to see out of the window. Don't listen, don't listen. The captain, putting his hands over his ears. I'm stopping my ears, Lisa, my child. Alice kneels with her arms outstretched. God help us. The fatigue party is coming. She moves her lips as if in silent prayer. The telegraph taps for a little longer, until a long strip of paper has appeared. Then there is silence again. Alice rises, tears off the strip of paper, and reads it to herself. Then she raises her eyes to heaven, goes over and kisses the captain on the forehead. It's over. It was nothing. She sits down, takes out a handkerchief, and bursts into tears. What are all these secrets? Don't ask me. It's over now. Just as you please, my child. You wouldn't have said that 3 days ago. What's happened to you? Well, my dear, when I had that first attack, I
Passed over for a while to the other side of the grave. What I saw I have forgotten, but the effect has lasted.
What effect?
The hope of something better.
Something better?
Yes. I never really have believed that this could be life itself. This is death. Or worse.
And we're
destined to torment one another, so it seems.
Haven't we tormented one another enough?
I should think so.
What havoc we have played, too. Looks about. Shall we put the place in order? And clean up? Alice, rising. Yes, if it's possible. The captain, rising and looking round the room.
It can't be done in one day, that's certain.
In two, then. Many days.
Let's hope so.
The captain sits down again.
So you didn't get free this time. But you didn't get me locked up either.
Alice looks surprised.
Yes, I knew you wanted to put me in prison. But I canceled that out. You've probably done worse things than that.
Alice is speechless.
And I was not guilty of embezzlement.
And now I'm to be your nurse?
If you will.
What else is there for me to do?
I don't know.
Alice slumps down in despair. These are surely the everlasting fires. Is there no end?
Yes, but we must have patience. Perhaps when death comes, life begins.
Ah, if that were so.
You think Kurt was a hypocrite, do you?
Yes, I certainly do.
I don't. But everyone who comes near us grows evil and goes his way. Kurt was weak, and evil is strong. How insipid life is now. One used to fight. Now one only shakes one's fists. I feel pretty sure that in 3 months' time we shall be having our silver wedding, with Kurt as best man, and the doctor and Gerda among the guests. The quartermaster will propose the toast, and the sergeant major lead the cheering. And if I know the colonel, he will invite himself.
Alice giggles.
Makes you laugh, eh?
But do you remember Adolph's silver wedding? That fellow in the rifles? The bride had to wear the ring on her right hand because in a moment of tenderness the bridegroom had chopped off her left ring finger with a billhook. Are you crying? No. You're laughing, surely. Yes, child, that's how it is for us. Part laughter and part tears. Which it should be, don't ask me. The other day I read in the paper that a man who was divorced 7 times and had married again 7 times finally eloped in his 99th year and remarried his first wife. There's love for you. Whether life is serious or just trivial, I haven't a clue. It can be its most painful when it's comic, and its most agreeable and peaceful when it's serious. But if you finally decide to take yourself seriously, someone comes and makes a fool of you. Kurt, for example. Do you want a silver wedding? Alice is silent.
Do say yes.
They'll laugh at us, but what does that matter? We'll laugh with them. Or else be serious. Just as we choose. Yes. Very well. The captain, seriously. So silver wedding it is. Rises. Cancel out and pass on. So, let us pass on.